Splash! What? I looked down and saw that I was soaked from the back all the way down. I had an important business meeting coming up soon. I turned around and saw Emma, holding an empty glass and laughing at me. "It's because you were dressed so shabbily, so I just sanitized you with beer," she said. I work at a small factory, and at this rare class reunion, I was happily catching up with old friends. But then Emma showed up. Her elegance seemed to have grown even more, especially since her husband is set to be the next director of a major hospital. However, as soon as she saw me in my work clothes, she poured beer all over me. "I just sanitized you with beer." Emma said this with a loud, mocking laugh. "Well, I have a plan too. Tell your husband this." What? To her, it must have been just a careless prank. But little did she know, this action would significantly change both of our fates. My name is Cassius. It's a bit of an unusual name, but I'm just an average, ordinary guy in my early 30s. I didn't grow up wealthy, but with a kind and dependable father and a mother who was bright like the sun, I had a happy childhood. Playing with friends until dusk after school, often forgetting about my homework. Although I had my share of teenage rebellion, I enjoyed a fairly ordinary student life, graduated from college. And now I'm living a busy but fulfilling life as a working adult. The invitation to this reunion arrived a month ago. Lately, I've been attending more business meetings, and I had work scheduled for the day of the reunion as well. But as I flipped through my planner, I thought for a moment. I'll be done around here that day. Yeah, I can make it. Grinning to myself, I checked the attendance box on the RSVP card. And so, the day arrived. Excited about seeing my former classmates, I headed to one of our clients, a manufacturing company, early in the morning. Today, I was supposed to inspect their facility, observe the final stages of production of some precision equipment, and meet with the person in charge. But then, something unexpected happened. A problem occurred during the process, and the meeting I had scheduled was pushed to the evening. Oh no, looks like I'm gonna be catching the last train home tonight. I bit my lip in frustration. More than anything, I was devastated that I might not make it to the reunion. Desperately, I glanced at my watch. Maybe, just maybe. I quickly calculated the time in my head. I could still make a brief appearance at the reunion. I would have liked to suit up properly, but there was no time to change. Resigned, I headed to the reunion venue in my work clothes. "Hey, long time no see. What are you wearing? Look who's talking, you've aged quite a bit." "Yeah, so have you. So, what's everyone up to these days?" As soon as I entered the venue, familiar faces began to surround me one after another. It had been more than 10 years since graduation, so we've all aged and been working hard in our own ways. The guy who was once the class hero now proudly showed off photos of his kids, his double chin wobbling with joy. While the girl who used to sit hunched over in the corner with glasses had transformed into a stunning beauty. Despite the different paths we've taken, being together again brought us back to those days in an instant. That's why, whenever I remembered the upcoming meeting, I couldn't help but click my tongue in frustration. What? You have to work afterward? Come on, I was really looking forward to a good time drinking with you. Ah, it's really something, isn't it? With a wry smile, I took a gulp of my tea. What kind of work do you do, Cassius? One of my classmates, currently in the thick of raising 2 kids, leaned in with curiosity. Well, Hello everyone. Long time no see. A high-pitched voice suddenly cut through, interrupting my answer. Everyone's eyes turned toward a single person. Sorry, the hair salon took longer than expected. Oh? Smiling brightly, she walked over toward us. My heartbeat quickened, and my palms began to sweat a little. Still as lively as ever, huh? And your outfit is just as flashy. Watching her from a distance, my classmates huddled together, whispering among themselves. Their tones carried a hint of poison, and their eyes seemed cold as ice. But she paid no attention to their stares and strode confidently toward me, smiling broadly. Looks like you're having fun. Oh, is that you, Cassius? She spoke in a tone as if she had just noticed me, tilting her head cutely. Hi, long time no see. Emma. I forced a smile to hide my nerves, but my hands were trembling. Emma. A classmate I could never forget, no matter how much I wanted to. With her charming appearance and brilliant mind, she was admired by everyone in our grade, both boys and girls alike. Of course, I was secretly one of those who had feelings for her. Perhaps aware of this, Emma always behaved gracefully in front of others, never showing a single flaw to the teachers, earning their unwavering trust as an outstanding student. But that was just her public persona. Anyone she deemed clearly beneath her, she would mercilessly look down on, and any attempt to argue back was effortlessly crushed. So no one could stop her, and all we could do was turn a blind eye. My classmates and I had been insulted by her many times. Emma, with a champagne glass in hand, looked me up and down, just like she used to. By the way, what's with that outfit for a reunion? She said, snorting with laughter. I came straight from a job site before coming here. Oh. So, you must be doing some kind of factory work, huh, dressed like that? Well, yeah, something like that. I see. I see. She nodded with a clearly condescending expression. Then, one of my classmates, full of curiosity, asked, So, what about you, Emma? What are you up to these days? Everyone turned their attention to Emma. She seemed to revel in being the center of attention and instantly flashed a smile. I'm working as a nurse now. You know Sullivan General Hospital? My husband works there as a doctor, and he's the next director. Wow, Sullivan General Hospital is the biggest hospital in this area, right? I saw on TV recently that they have the latest medical equipment. Oh, I saw that too. That's incredible, you really landed a good one. Everyone kept saying how amazing it was, their faces showing a mix of admiration and envy. Listening to all this, I felt a wave of bitterness wash over me. The gods really do give some people everything. Memories from the past slowly resurfaced. My family runs a small factory in town. We were a subcontractor for a small company, so our business was never stable. But my honest father diligently took on whatever work came his way and earned the trust of several clients. I grew up watching my father work like that, and I respect him deeply. That's why Emma's constant insults are something I can't forget. Just because our family ran a factory, she would call us poor, and every time we passed each other, she'd give me a disgusted look. There were always a few students hanging around her like a little entourage. When I was locked in a bathroom stall, I felt like I was living a nightmare, and ever since, I've had a fear of confined spaces. Talking to her brought those memories back one by one, and my heart started pounding harder. But Emma, unaware of what was going on inside me, kept throwing her insults. Upbringing really does make a difference, doesn't it? They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and it seems to be true. She said this, laughing so hard she had to clutch her stomach. What are you even saying? In the end, people at the bottom stay at the bottom, no matter how hard they try. Emma cut me off, her words relentless. This is getting us nowhere. I glanced at my watch. Sorry, I have to go now. Hey, we're not done talking yet. I have work after this. Oh, so this is what they mean by the poor have no time. How sad. Yeah, I guess so. See you. I turned my back on her, heading toward the exit without a second thought. Then it happened. Splash. What? I looked down and saw that I was soaked from the back all the way down. And it smelled like alcohol. Turning around, I saw Emma glaring at me, holding an empty glass. It's because you're dressed so filthy, so I just sanitized you with beer. After all, I'm a nurse, aren't I? Ha ha. She burst into loud laughter. What the hell? Everyone around us was stunned into silence. I swallowed my anger and sadness, alternating between the two, and wiped my head and neck with a handkerchief. So, is this how you sanitize people at your hospital, by pouring beer on them? Emma's perfectly groomed eyebrows shot up. What did you just say? She let out a sigh, as if exasperated, and replied, as if we'd ever do that. Our hospital is a first-class institution. She tossed her long, proud hair back. Sullivan General Hospital caters to CEOs of top companies and famous celebrities. Don't lump us in with poor people like you. Her outrageous arrogance made me lose any desire to argue back. I see. Well, I have a plan of my own. Yeah, you might be right about that. Oh, you're surprisingly quick to understand. With Emma in a good mood, I pressed on. Tell your husband that the meeting later is off. What? Without looking back at the stunned Emma or the now completely silent room, I quickly left the venue. Feeling frustrated, I returned home and immediately unzipped my beer-soaked work clothes, eager to get rid of them. The meeting that had been scheduled for today was a major deal. If it were cancelled, it would be a huge blow to the factory. Suddenly, a loud ringtone blasted from the phone I had tossed on the floor. Hello? Hello, I'm sorry to bother you during your time off. No, I'm the one who should apologize for canceling on such short notice. I heard about it from my wife. With that, he fell silent for a moment. The person I had scheduled the meeting with after the reunion was actually Emma's husband, Simon, a doctor at Sullivan General Hospital. Simon's voice was strained as he spoke to me. I'd like to hear what happened from your side as well, Cassius. Did my wife do something inappropriate? Judging by his tone, it seemed Emma hadn't mentioned the beer incident. Well, actually, I began to explain the situation, bit by bit. Simon remained silent the entire time. And that's why I thought it would be inappropriate to come over smelling like beer, so I decided to cancel the meeting on my own accord. I closed my eyes tightly after finishing my explanation. After a brief silence, Simon finally spoke. I can't believe this. I deeply apologize for the terrible behavior you experienced. From the other end of the line, I could hear some commotion. It sounded like Emma was nearby. After some exchange between them, Simon spoke again, sounding apologetic. My wife insists on apologizing to you in person. If it's all right with you, may we come over at a time that's convenient for you? What do you think? I never expected Emma to be so quick to show remorse, but I agreed to their request. And so, a week later, Emma came to my company with Simon. Emma, make sure you apologize properly. Prompted by Simon, she reluctantly bowed her head and muttered an apology. I'm sorry for pouring beer on you. It was clear she was only apologizing because her husband was making her do it. Simon also joined in the apology. I sincerely apologize for my wife's extremely rude behavior. Oh, yes. I've been in situations where I had to bow my head countless times, but it's rare for me to be on the receiving end. For a moment, I hesitated, unsure of what to say in return. Then, raising his head, Simon looked at me with a pleading expression and asked, so, about the business deal. How do you feel about it? There was a reason why this man, the future director of the largest general hospital in the prefecture, was bowing to me. After working for about 3 years at the company I joined right after college, I took over my father's factory. Over the past few decades, rapid changes in the market had directly impacted our factory, plunging it into a crisis. My father had told me many times that I didn't have to take over the factory, but I had already made up my mind. I had joined a certain equipment manufacturer before this to gain strength and not be outdone by my father or the craftsmen. As a president, I poured my heart into creating screws with unparalleled precision, using the skills I had acquired over the years. Needless to say, no machine can be built without screws. A single defect in a screw could instantly destroy trust and result in a massive loss for the factory. I wanted the screws we made to serve society and help people. With that in mind, my colleagues and I worked hard, sometimes even shedding tears of frustration. But we eventually succeeded in producing the finest screws. The screws made in our factory gained a great reputation, and we now frequently deal with a well-known company developing space rockets. The factory has never been busier, and the orders keep pouring in. Now, we have contracts with several medical equipment manufacturers. And our factory produces spinal implants used for patients with spinal injuries. These products have also gained a good reputation. And Sullivan General Hospital was considering introducing such spinal implants along with other cutting-edge medical equipment. His hospital had rested on its laurels as the largest in the prefecture and had engaged in reckless management, which had led to consecutive years of financial losses. Simon was feeling the pressure. Even if he becomes the director, if he can't get them out of this deficit, the hospital's reputation will plummet, and at worst, the staff could end up on the streets. He knew that this was something he had to avoid at all costs. Please, I'm begging you. The fate of Sullivan General Hospital is on the line. Simon got down on his knees, bowing so low that his forehead almost touched the floor. Emma stood there, momentarily stunned by her husband's desperate display. I knelt down and placed a hand on his shoulder. Simon, please, raise your head. Simon lifted his head, and his eyes were filled with tears. As a company president, I also have the responsibility to protect my factory and its employees. In that sense, we're in the same boat. I glanced over at Emma, who was standing beside him. When people hear that I work in a factory, they always say, "That must be tough," as if it's automatically assumed that working in a factory means being poor. I really hate that. Factories have been the backbone of economic development for years. I found myself gripping the hem of my work clothes tightly. I take great pride in these work clothes. Cassius. Simon murmured my name, nodding to himself as if he had come to a decision, and then he stood up. He spoke to Emma, who had a clouded expression on her face. This whole mess happened because of your outrageous behavior, didn't it? What? Yes, but you're such a troublesome, spoiled brat, Emma. You're living this privileged life because I've been the one bowing my head like this. But that ends today. He fixed her with a gaze as cold as ice. I can't endure living with you anymore. I want a divorce. What? Emma was left speechless by her husband's unexpected declaration. But Simon's expression remained unchanged. Simon, isn't divorce going a bit too far? Cassius, I'm putting everything into these spinal implants. As a director, I can't afford to put the hospital at any more risk. I'm divorcing her because she caused this mess. So, Simon, I promise I'll change. I'll do my best as the director's wife. And who do you think you're fooling? Simon coldly brushed off Emma's desperate plea. I was a fool to be deceived by appearances. This incident taught me that lesson the hard way. Don't drag me down any further. Now, get out. No. Simon dismissed Emma as if she were nothing more than a burden. Given the thorough apology I had received, I had thought everything could be resolved by finalizing the contract later. But I never expected it to turn out like this. The stark contrast between my initial impression of Simon and his attitude toward Emma left me feeling something I couldn't quite put into words. In the end, we formally signed the contract with Sullivan General Hospital, and our factory was motivated by the influx of a significant new order. The hospital managed to pull itself out of its financial crisis, and its reputation as a place where cutting-edge treatments could be received began to spread. Simon was also becoming known as a capable director in the medical community. Not long after, I heard from someone that Simon's divorce from Emma had been finalized. A few months later, on a certain day, my busy workload had finally eased up, and I found myself humming a tune as I walked through the trendy streets. Then, I spotted a familiar face approaching. Panicking, I tried to pretend I hadn't noticed, but our eyes met. Hello? I didn't say anything. At that moment, I suddenly remembered that Emma had gone through a divorce, and I hesitated, unsure of how to continue the conversation. So, you were probably laughing at me behind my back, weren't you? What? I had no idea what she was talking about. That's exactly it. What do you mean by that? Emma spoke with a self-mocking smile. It really annoyed me. Even though you were poor, you were always smiling, doing silly things, looking happy. I just couldn't stand it. Why did you seem happier than me? You, who had less than I did. It made me so irrationally angry. I wanted to believe that I was happier by putting you down. Now that I think about it, I was really immature. I know an apology isn't enough, but I'm sorry, Emma. I expected her to unleash another barrage of condescending remarks, but instead, she seemed strangely subdued. And I never thought she'd bring up something from so long ago, back in our school days. Before I realized it, I found myself blurting out. You always seem to have a lonely look on your face, too. What? I did? Her unexpected reaction made me decide to open up. I don't think you ever realized it, but I've always admired you, Emma. As the son of a small-town factory owner, Emma had always appeared to me as someone who shone brighter than anyone else. She was the daughter of a renowned local hospital, top of the class academically, athletically talented, and incredibly cute. She quickly became the most popular girl, not just in our class but in the entire grade. Any boy would have admired her at least once. That's why the occasional lonely expression on her face always stuck with me and wouldn't let go. Maybe there were countless struggles she faced that we couldn't even begin to understand. Although she was always surrounded by many friends and classmates, perhaps Emma never truly felt happy. Listening to my words, Emma fell into a sullen silence. A quiet moment passed between us. Being ordinary, it's a precious thing. She muttered this, looking down. What? Because I was the daughter of a doctor, it was just assumed I would become a doctor too. I actually hated studying, but I did it because I had to. And whenever my test scores were slightly lower than before, they would scold me endlessly. They never cared about how I felt. Emma's father was known as a friendly doctor who was approachable to everyone in the neighborhood. Thinking of his gentle demeanor during consultations, I realized that appearances could be deceiving, and a chilly draft seemed to blow through my heart. My classmates were no different. Just because I was the doctor's daughter, they would go out of their way to flatter me. It was ridiculous. So you couldn't trust anyone. That's right. That's why I believed that my ex-husband wasn't like that. But, perhaps because she had let out everything she had been holding back, Emma's face was soaked with tears. As the director's wife, I was told to know my place, that doctors are superior, and that nurses should just do as they're told. To him, I was nothing more than an accessory to show off. I can't trust anyone anymore. Watching Emma sobbing uncontrollably, I voiced the question that had risen in my mind. But isn't that just your perspective, Emma? What? Her wet eyelashes glistened in the light, and for a moment, my heart skipped a beat. Can you say for sure that every person around you thought exactly that way? Even if most of them did, there might have been at least one who felt differently. At least, I never looked at you through such a narrow lens. What do you mean? I decided to finally confess the feelings I had kept inside for so long. It's true, the way you treated me was pretty awful. When I saw you at the reunion, I thought it was the worst. But, despite everything, I kept finding myself watching you. She went silent. Emma remained silent, as if time had stopped around her. I still don't know if it was love or not, but every time you said something harsh, your face seemed so sad, and every time I saw that, my chest tightened. What are you saying, all of a sudden? Emma's face seemed to flush slightly. Trying to hide my embarrassment, I quickly continued. So, I think it's a waste for you to just assume you're a certain kind of person. Right now, you don't have to act like a director's wife at all. If there's something you're interested in, it's definitely better to believe in your potential and go for it. Show them you're more than just the daughter of a hospital owner. Cassius. I've always tried to live like that. Because just growing up in a factory made everyone look at me with pity. I hated that. So I had to build up the factory I inherited, to make things that were useful to people and society. That's all I've focused on in my work. She kept silent. As I spoke, I saw Emma's eyes quickly fill with tears. Without knowing any of that, I treated you so terribly. She said this as big tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Truly, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. Emma collapsed onto the ground, almost as if she were bowing deeply, and she kept repeating her apologies over and over. Having truly reflected on her actions toward me, Emma seemed to have completely changed her mindset and started a new life in a place a bit farther away from here. Hey, it's been a while. You look well. Yes, thanks to you. Work is going well, so I'm grateful. Unlike before, she now exuded a softer aura, with a certain sense of calm and confidence. Still, I'm surprised. I never knew you had this side of you. Looking around at the vast rural landscape surrounded by mountains, I took a deep breath. She looked so different from how she used to, with her long, glossy hair, glamorous makeup, and stylish clothes. Now, with dirt on her face, wearing a headscarf and holding a hoe, she looked surprisingly at ease. Emma, who had always been interested in farming, had changed careers to work for an agricultural corporation introduced by a contact she made during her time at the hospital. Although agriculture had nothing to do with the medical field, It seemed she found satisfaction in the steady physical work and became fascinated by the charms of farming. You really made a bold move. I never could have imagined this from the old you. Emma smiled playfully and looked at me with an upward glance. You know, people aren't always what they seem. You told me before, didn't you? To keep challenging myself with things I'm interested in. Did I? I vaguely remembered saying something like that, but it had slipped my mind amid the busyness of recent days. Yes, you did. Those words gave me the courage to take the plunge. I always wanted to try my hand at farming at least once. The leaves of the cabbages spread across the field swayed in the wind. Emma's eyes, focused on the horizon, were full of determination. I've realized something. Without the help of machinery, farming will only decline further. That's why we need the screws you make. Emma's company was currently developing agricultural robots in collaboration with local businesses, and they had approached our factory to discuss a potential partnership. And today was the crucial day for that negotiation. For me, securing the deal and catching up with Emma's recent life was a double win. At least, that's what I thought. By the way, there's something I've been meaning to ask. What? I noticed Emma's face starting to flush. About when you said you liked me. Oh, well. This unexpected turn of events made my body temperature rise rapidly. Is that still valid? Her face had a teasing yet somehow happy expression. Trying to hide my nervousness, I smiled and replied. Of course. People often judge others by their family background and circumstances, but that kind of thinking only creates unfair prejudices. Those who rest on their privileged upbringing and can only maintain their self-worth by looking down on others will live a limited life. However, if you keep working steadily on things you're passionate about, regardless of your background or circumstances, there will surely come a time when your efforts bear fruit. To those who are struggling with feelings of inadequacy or who have given up because they think their family is too poor, I was once in the same position. But please, don't give up. A small curiosity about something you want to try might someday change your life in a big way.